I arrived in the Philippines thinking I already understood kindness. I was wrong in a way that embarrassed me later. At first, I thought Filipino kindness was just politeness, turned up louder, more smiles, softer voices, extra patience for guests. I told myself it was cultural training, something learned early and performed well. And honestly, that belief made me comfortable. Because if kindness is politeness, then it's optional. You can accept it, enjoy it, even benefit from it, without letting it change you. For months, I lived like that. Smiling back, saying thank you, taking help without really seeing it. Then one day, someone did something so small, so ordinary, that I almost forgot it happened. And that's the moment everything started to unravel. Because once you realize Filipino kindness isn't politeness, once you realize it's a way of seeing other people, you don't just rethink this country. You start questioning how you were raised. Let me take you back. When I first moved to the Philippines, I carried the same quiet assumptions most foreigners do. That people here are nice, friendly, warm, good at smiling even when life is hard. I had read the blogs, watched the travel vlogs, heard the phrases. Filipino hospitality, the friendliest people in Asia, the happiest culture despite poverty. I believed all of it. But I believed it the wrong way. In my country, kindness is often transactional. Someone is polite because it's expected. Someone helps because there is a rule, a benefit, or a social obligation. Even when people are genuinely good, there's usually a line somewhere, a moment where help stops being reasonable. So when Filipinos smiled at me constantly, I assumed it was cultural politeness. When strangers helped me without asking, I assumed they were being courteous. When people apologized, even when I was at fault, I assumed they were avoiding conflict. I thought I understood. I didn't. At first, the kindness felt excessive, almost performative. Jeepney drivers waiting for me when I was slow. Neighbors greeting me every morning like we were lifelong friends. Cashiers calling me Ma with a softness that felt strangely personal. I told myself they're just being nice to the foreigner. Then came the first crack in my understanding. One afternoon it started raining hard, the kind of tropical rain that doesn't ask permission. I was walking home from a small store when the street flooded within minutes. Water rose past my ankles, then my calves. I stopped, unsure what to do, annoyed more than worried. A man I had never met stepped out of a small house and waved me over. "Sir, Dito Muna," he said. "Come here first." I hesitated. In my head, I was already calculating inconvenience. I don't want to bother him. I don't want to intrude. But he didn't wait for my decision. He grabbed an extra chair, placed it on his porch, and handed me a towel, not a spare towel. A towel that looked like it belonged to his family. We didn't talk much. He just sat nearby while the rain passed. When it slowed, I stood up, thanked him, and tried to hand back the towel. He shook his head. "Sayo na," he said. "It's yours now." I laughed awkwardly and insisted. He smiled and insisted harder. Not loudly, not forcefully, just firmly. I walked home confused. That should have been my first lesson. But I still didn't get it. Weeks later, I got lost in a province far from the city. No signal, no familiar landmarks. I stopped to ask an elderly woman for directions. She listened carefully, nodded, then said something I didn't expect. "Sandali," she said. "Wait." She closed her small store, closed it, locked the door, and walked with me for almost 15 minutes just to make sure I reached the right road. She lost business, lost time, for someone she would never see again. I thanked her repeatedly. She looked almost embarrassed. "Wala yan," she said. It was nothing, nothing. That word came up again and again. Wa-la-h-lang, okay lang, yos lang. I thought it meant humility. I was wrong again. Months passed. Life settled into routine. And that's when the kindness stopped feeling special and started feeling normal. That's when I became dangerous. Because when kindness becomes background noise, you stop hearing it. I started to expect it. I expected patience when I made mistakes. I expected understanding when I was late. I expected forgiveness when I was careless. And one day, without realizing it, I took advantage of it. It was a small argument, nothing dramatic. I was frustrated, tired, and stressed about something unrelated. A local friend tried to help me, and I snapped. My tone changed. My words sharpened. I said things I would never say to someone I considered important. They went quiet. Not angry, not defensive. Just quiet. And that silence felt heavier than shouting. Later that night, guilt crept in. I sent a message, half apologizing, half explaining myself. I expected distance, maybe coldness, maybe polite forgiveness. What I received was worse. It's okay, they said. I understand. No blame, no lecture, no reminder of what I'd done. Just understanding. And that's when something uncomfortable surfaced inside me. Why did that feel unfair? Why did part of me want them to be angry? That question stayed with me longer than the argument. Slowly, painfully, I began to see something. Filipino kindness wasn't reactive. It wasn't based on whether you deserved it. It wasn't about being liked. It was pre-decided. Kindness here wasn't something you earned. It was something you entered. I started noticing it everywhere. And how families shared food, even when there wasn't enough. And how people laughed at problems they should have been bitter about. And how help was offered before it was requested. But still, I hadn't fully understood. Then the day came that changed everything. I got sick. Really sick. Not the dramatic kind, no hospital montage. Just fever, weakness, and isolation. The kind that makes you feel small and helpless. I lived alone at the time. My family was thousands of kilometers away. I didn't tell many people how bad it was. I didn't want to worry anyone, but somehow people noticed. A neighbor knocked on my door with soup. Another brought medicine I hadn't asked for. Someone I barely knew offered to stay nearby just in case. No one posted about it. No one made a speech. No one asked for thanks. They just showed up. At one point, lying there half asleep, I realized something terrifying. If I were in my home country, I would be alone, not because people there are cruel, but because their independence is respected. Privacy is honored. Help is offered carefully, so it doesn't cross a line. Here, the line didn't exist. And suddenly, I understood why. Filipino kindness isn't about manners. It's about responsibility. In this culture, you don't help because someone is close to you. You help because they are there. You help because for a moment their life has touched yours, and that creates obligation, not legal obligation, not moral superiority, human obligation. That's when the word Kapwa finally made sense to me, not as a translation, but as a feeling. The idea that the other person is not separate from you, that their struggle is not entirely theirs, that their pain doesn't belong only to them. Once you see that, kindness stops being optional. It becomes instinct. I started replaying old moments in my head. The man in the rain wasn't being generous. He was doing what made sense. The woman who closed her store wasn't sacrificing. She was aligning with her values. My friend who forgave me wasn't weak. They were grounded. And I had misunderstood everything. I thought Filipino kindness was soft. It's not. It's strong enough to absorb disrespect. Strong enough to carry strangers. Strong enough to keep choosing humanity in a world that rewards selfishness. That realization changed how I moved through life here. I stopped rushing past people. Stopped treating help as something to politely refuse. Stopped assuming smiles meant nothing. I learned to receive. And that, for someone like me, was harder than giving. The final moment came quietly. I was leaving a place I had grown attached to, packing my things, saying goodbyes. A tricycle driver I had ridden with many times noticed my bags. "Uwi ka na?" he asked. "You're going home?" I nodded. He didn't say much after that, just helped load my bags. Drove slower than usual. When we arrived, he refused full payment. "Okay na yan," he said. I tried to insist. He waved it away. For all the times, he said, I didn't know what that meant. I hadn't done anything special for him. I hadn't even talked much, but then it hit me. I didn't need to. Presence was enough. That was the day I finally understood the Filipino soul. Not as an idea, not as a stereotype, but as a lived truth. Kindness here isn't politeness. It's philosophy. A quiet agreement that no one walks alone unless they choose to. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Because it doesn't just change how you see Filipinos. It changes how you see yourself.